Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com, and this is The Gutters, my audio journal. It's been a time, hasn't it? Since the last time I recorded one of these, stuff has certainly hit the fan. How are you doing? I meant to record this yesterday. This is actually, I'm sorry, this might be a little scatterbrained at first. I apologize. I was actually going to record this yesterday. Today is Sunday, March 22nd, 2020. It is my daughter's birthday. She means the world to me, and I was originally going to be spending today with her down in the Boise area, but because of all this stuff going on, we had to change our plans last minute. So anyway, happy birthday, sweetheart. But yeah, stuff has happened, as I said, and it's been an interesting time. As I've said before on the show, I'm now in my 50s. I turned 51 at the end of December last year, and I have never experienced something like this before. I mean, we've had global epidemics. I was trying to remember if like SARS and swine flu and stuff like that, if those were technically pandemics, but they never really impacted my life other than me being worried about the people around the world and how this could impact my life. But this one, this COVID-19, the coronavirus, wow, it's so weird. It was about 2-3 weeks ago when, I started seeing stuff on Twitter and Facebook about store shelves being emptied and people were hoarding toilet paper. I'm like, toilet paper, come on. But, the herd mentality, the panic set in, and now, like I said, 2-3 weeks later, my wife and I we are weekly shoppers. We plan for a week and we go shopping just for things for that week. And I was surprised about 2 weeks ago when we went to the stores and there was nothing in terms of paper products. I mean, they were cleaned out. Well, let me back up. I guess there, about 3 weeks ago, maybe that's when I was seeing the timeline's getting jumbled up. It's all this indoor stuff, this self-quarantine. It's kind of making my brain already doesn't process time very well anyway. So anyway, we went one time and we were able to find, some toilet paper because we knew things like that were happening. But there wasn't much, but we grabbed some anyway, just to be, safe, I guess, just to ensure that we had some. We did not grab everything that was on the shelf. We only grabbed one package, because we should be sharing. We should not be hoarding. Anyway, a week later, we go and there is nothing at all on the shelves. And we've gone again, though, a week later, and nothing. We went this weekend. We went yesterday just to get a few things for the week's worth of meals that we planned, and also, quite frankly, to look for toilet paper and other paper products. Not that we're not out or anything, but given the situation, it wouldn't be bad to have a little bit more. And we went to 4 or 5. I can't remember how many stores we went to. And everybody's out. Nobody in the area in which I live has anything relating to basically paper products. Also, I was looking for some, sanitizing wipes. I like to keep packets of that in our vehicles for whenever we need it. Thought it would be good to have those as well. Nobody has those. So yeah, it's very interesting. When I went to record this, I I actually had to stop because my daughter called and we talked to her for a while. And just before I pushed the record button again to continue this conversation, I got a notification from our local newspaper that the first case in this area of coronavirus has been confirmed. So it is now here where I live. I imagine, that's the only known case, so there must be more. I just have to be pragmatic about it and consider the possibilities. So, that's good. Good to know. I mean, not good for the person and the people that she has been around, but it's scary. I am legitimately concerned about the situation and the fact that I'm the business that I work at. Both my wife and I work there. They have not shut down. They're not required to. It's a manufacturing business, so I guess we can't. I don't know. I don't know the details. All I know is that we are not working from home. I'm a manager of 2 small departments. I technically could work from home, as could probably most of my employees. Probably all of them could do it, but we have not been given that directive by our employer. So there's always that possibility that anyone that I work with, not just in my departments, but other people that also work there, could have come in contact with someone. So I am a little concerned. We're not at that age, but we're close to it, my wife and I. And from what I'm hearing, or from what I'm reading anyway, from people who are posting on social media about their experience with having the virus and what they've gone through, I feel like what we have been told about it from the authorities is not accurate or possibly even true. So, like I said, I'm very concerned about it. My wife and I, it's spring break. It's the end of spring break, technically for the school district here, and our living granddaughters, Gabby and Maddie. They are with their other family right now, so we don't know. I mean, well, actually, we do know. We do know that they've been in places where there have been other people. They've not been self-quarantining, self-isolating, which is what my wife and I have been doing as much as possible, except for when we have to go get groceries. So, Gabby and Maddie are returning today. I don't know what that means yet, but we will be as vigilant and careful as possible as we have been. For example, when we have been going grocery shopping, it's been an interesting experience there. People I've noticed are, for the most part, being cautious around being around other people. In fact, a few weeks ago when this was first starting to hit, I noticed, and maybe it was me projecting a bit. That's a possibility, but I noticed people were kind of being wary and kind of looking at me, and I probably was looking at them too, going, "Are you safe? Am I taking a risk here?" And I tell you what, I don't like that feeling that way and reacting this way, but I guess it is what it is. Anyway, I think I mentioned already, I can't remember now, but I wasn't going to do this. I was not going to do this because I was thinking, because the usual thing that I do is, I talk about what's going on in my life, and then I talk about, the pop culture stuff that I'm experiencing, and I give recommendations. And like I said, I went to record this yesterday, and I just didn't think it was important. Who wants to listen to me ramble on about what's going on in my life and all that stuff? But I talked to my wife yesterday. We had a very long conversation about a lot of things because I did not have a good day yesterday. Something happened. And anyway, so in the course of this conversation, many things that we discussed yesterday, I told her about this, the fact that I was like, well, this is dumb. I this is not important. What's going on in the world is important, and what people are actually going through is important. And this is not. This podcast is not important. Me blathering into a microphone for a while is not important. And she said, as I guess in the last 48 hours or so, other people I've seen on Twitter are talking about, people are looking for an escape or a distraction at the very least. And so, maybe it is worth doing this. And that's what she told me as well. So I decided to go ahead and do this recording. I hope you guys are doing okay. I hope that you are getting all the toilet paper and whatever else you need from your stores. This is going to be, like I said, this is a game changer situation. There's going to be so many restaurants and other businesses, anything that requires close contact with people and their clients, their customers. Probably a good chunk of those businesses are going to fail. They're going to go away because they can't do their jobs. And our personal safety is paramount. So obviously that takes precedence, but I worry about local businesses failing and people being out of a job and the economy hit, and my 401k, which is tied to the stock market, just took a huge hit. What's that going to do for me later? And, quite frankly, if I get sick, will I survive? Will my friends and family be okay? Wow, this is a bit of a heavy episode compared to my other ones. But these are the things that I'm thinking about, the things that I'm worried about. So, like I said, I hope you're doing okay. I hope that you have somebody to talk to. And if you don't, please find someone to talk to, because at least for me, that really helped. Even though we're supposed to be social distancing and quarantining ourselves and isolating ourselves, find somebody to talk to, even if it's over social media. Call somebody, talk to a loved one. But I am taking my wife's suggestion to heart, and so maybe in these trying times, talking about the simple joys of a TV show or a movie or something else in your life that you enjoyed, maybe that also helps. Maybe celebrating the small things like this is a good thing. So in that spirit, I will do what I plan to do anyway and go ahead and talk about these small things. I mentioned work. In the last time that I talked about this stuff, I was working a lot of hours. I still am. Even though I took this last Friday off because I was supposed to go, like I said, I think I mentioned this already. We were supposed to go visit my daughter for her birthday, and we didn't do that, but I still took Friday off, and oh my God, I so needed to take Friday off and be away from work because it's stressing me out. But anyway, still doing a lot of hours. It's basically eating up all of my free time to read comics and do podcasts and other things. So in the few hours in the evening I seem to be getting, I'm trying to spend more time with my family. Like this week, like I said, it's spring break, so it's just been my wife and I. So we have been actually been watching a lot of movies in the last several weeks since I last talked about what's going on in my life. And I'll get to that. But like I said, work-wise, it's been hectic. So there's that. let's see here. Besides that, I'll just go into the things that I've enjoyed in the last several weeks since the last Gutters episode. I watched the Crisis on Infinite Earths event on the CW. That was a lot of fun. I actually don't watch, I'm sure I've mentioned this before, I don't watch those shows regularly, but I do every year tune into their crossover event. And so that was a lot of fun, seeing a lot of the Easter eggs and the homages to Crisis on Infinite Earths, the comic book, and their takes on it. Some of the cameos really surprised me. I was not expecting the guy who plays Lucifer on was that NBC or a Fox show? That's a Fox show, I believe. Seeing him show up in a scene, that was just, they really pulled out all the stops on that. I really appreciate that. So that was fun. Still a little confused by the ending of that. 'Cause, at one point they pulled all of the CW shows together on the same Earth, but at the very end, there's still a multiverse. So that, the other network shows can still continue to be associated with the grander DC television universe, but they're not on the same Earth. So anyway, it seemed kind of weird, but, so if you have an explanation, for me, about that, let me know. The Crown, the third season of The Crown debuted in the last few months. And so my wife and I are a fan of that. So we watched that, until we were done. It's interesting to watch that. There was one episode about the small town. There was a tragedy that happened there, and all those children who died. And that was rough. That was a very rough episode to get through. Whenever I hear things about children, tragedies happening to children, it just really upsets me. And that was no exception. Other things, there is, The Good Place ended. So there was the finale of that. That was a wonderful way to end the show. It brought me a lot of joy, even though the show ended. Also, not as much joy, but I've been doing a West Wing rewatch because of the West Wing podcast, the West Wing Weekly podcast. So, both of those things ended. And the Good Place, the podcast also ended. So it was this weird, they both ended about the same time as I recall. And so it was like, two of my favorite things are now done. Well, 4 of my favorite things, if you include the 2 podcasts. So now I want to find another show that I can rewatch and find a podcast that's just as good as the West Wing Weekly podcast and the Good Place, the podcast. So I'm looking at a Buffy rewatch right now. There's I'm blanking on. There's another show that I was thinking of, but I can't remember now. So whatever. And then a new show that has started in the last month or so called Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, which is kind of a modern take of the show Eli Stone from several years ago. The main character, Zoe, finds herself seeing the innermost thoughts and feelings of people around her expressed through popular music. So someone will be suddenly belting out a song that most of us would recognize, I think, including her coworkers, her family, and only she sees this, and then so she feels compelled to help those people. And I just really enjoy it. It's a nice replacement for The Good Place in terms of the overall aesthetic, the vibe. The good vibe that it brings or elicits. So I highly recommend that if you enjoy that kind of television. And then I also recently, because of I got a new iPhone some time ago, and with it came a year-long free subscription to Apple TV. Is that what it's called? Apple Plus TV? Apple TV? No, I'm getting Disney Plus confused with Apple TV. Anyway, I have access to Apple TV. And they have some original programming on there. And there's a new show, or a show called For All Mankind, which is an alternate history take on the space race. And I've always had a huge interest in space exploration and the space program in America. I was born, I was 6 months old. Yes, about 6 months old when we landed on the moon. And I've always been interested in that kind of stuff. And so the take of this show is that the Russians beat us to the moon and what that means. And so I've only watched the first episode, but I really enjoyed it. I love the time, because this is the late 60s. I have always enjoyed the 60s as a style time. Just the style of the 60s is what I'm trying to say that I really like. There's a movie that I'm going to talk about here in a minute that also elicits that same kind of interest in me or from me because it was set in a certain time period. So I've been wanting to get back to that. Haven't gotten back to watch the second episode, but I also know that at one point in the show they get a bunch of female astronauts to the moon because we're playing catch up with the Russians. And so, I'm looking forward to seeing where all that goes. And I know, Ronald Moore, who used to work on Star Trek: The Next Generation, I think also Deep Space Nine, but he was the mastermind, or at least one of them behind the Battlestar Galactica reboot from several years ago. And he does a good job at this kind of stuff. So, I'm looking forward to, seeing what comes out of this. I think as far as other TV, my wife and I are trying to get through some various shows that we watch together. This weekend, we've been watching a lot of the Longmire television show, which I've talked about before, but we're now into the final season, the 6th season. And so some things are starting to tie up. Other things, they're still introducing these new ideas into the show, which is interesting. And in fact, my wife and I, in between the two sets of recordings that I did here for this, we were talking about our reactions to one of the episodes, and in particular, one of the characters. My wife despises the character of Vic Moretti in this Deputy Moretti, played by Katie Sackhoff from Battlestar Galactica, the reboot. That's been an interesting source of contention between the two of us because I like Vic in the show. But I see my wife's point. She makes some really bad choices. The character does, and so I understand. But I can't help but enjoy Katie Sackhoff's performance of that character. Let's see. As far as movies, like I said before, we have been on a movie watching kick. We had been getting a lot of things from Redbox. This first movie, though, I'm going to talk about is not one of those. It's a movie that we actually own. It's Field of Dreams, and we also have been wanting to share with Gabby and Maddie films that we think are important in some way, and or were had an impact on us or the culture at the time that we watched them. Had some sort of impact, I guess. And Field of Dreams, we feel, is one of those. So we watched that with them, and boy, it still holds up. I always haven't been a big fan of Kevin Costner's performances. He's, I believe, gotten better with age. He was in that, I think, Netflix original movie or series. I forget now what it is, but The Highwayman. That he was excellent in. This, the character he plays in Field of Dreams, maybe not so much, but, acting wise. But the movie holds up though. And, it was quite fun to watch that again. More recently, we watched, or I should say, for more recent movies, we've watched. I really wanted to watch Ad Astra. Again, it's a space exploration type show, and so I'm always wanting to watch those. And this is the one that stars Brad Pitt, and it's mostly him in the movie. There's a bunch of minor characters, but for the most part, you're watching him deal with these various situations. It was a bit of, it was kind of like they're redoing 2001: A Space Odyssey a little bit with this movie, and maybe even I detected a lot more of Silent Running. I got a vibe from of that in this movie. But it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. Speaking of Brad Pitt, we rented and watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Again, going back to things, movies and TV shows that are set in a particular time, especially the 60s. This one was that. It's also a Tarantino film. I'm a fan of Tarantino's work. We quite enjoyed this. I think I enjoyed it more than my wife did. It was an interesting, again, alternate history bit in this regarding Sharon Tate and Manson and the Manson family. So if you've not seen it, I won't say any more about it, but that was an interesting fantasy about that situation. So, and somewhat satisfying fantasy given the situation. So. We also rented a movie I've been wanting to watch for a while called Peppermint. This is starring, Jennifer Garner, as a woman whose family is killed, and she goes away for a while and trains and comes back for revenge. So not a great movie. I expected a little bit more out of it, I guess. It was strangely, the way that some of the scenes, they kind of skip over and maybe this is the reason they did it. They skipped over what you would expect to see, her training, and then the specific people that killed her family are dealt with very quickly and off screen, between scenes. So that was weird. But I kind of understand why the director decided to do that, I guess. Hobbs and Shaw, we watched. Boy, that was not a great movie, but it was a lot of fun. Those are my two favorite characters from the Fast and Furious movies. And believe me, I know Fast and Furious, right? But my daughter got me into watching a few of the films, and I kind of enjoy those films now. Even though I originally had no desire whatsoever to watch those movies. So now that I've watched several of them, I haven't watched all of them. I really enjoyed the Hobbs and Shaw scenes in those movies. And so when they brought those two together, I had to see it. So I quite enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Blinded by the Light was another one. This is a movie inspired. Let me rephrase that. A gentleman in Britain was inspired in the 80s by the music of Bruce Springsteen. He's introduced to Bruce Springsteen by this other student, and he becomes a huge fan. And the movie is about how Springsteen impacted his life and changed it. And if nothing else, it was just a lot of fun to rediscover how much I enjoy Bruce Springsteen's music. There was this scene, I'll say about the middle of the movie, where some of the characters are running through their village and their school, and they are belting out Born to Run. And that was just a lot of fun, because that's one of my favorite Springsteen songs. So if you like those kind of movies, like, we watched, what was the one that was about the Beatles? Similar kind of thing. Oh my God, I can't remember. I can't believe I'm forgetting this. That was one of my favorite movies from last year. Oh well, go look it up. But it's celebrating the music. There was also the one about boy, I love it when I'm riffing and I can't remember the names of things. Elton John, that's who. The biopic about Elton John, just these movies that are celebrating particular musicians' work. So, Blinded by the Light was one of those. Ford versus Ferrari, we watched that. I always enjoy Matt Damon's performances and things. And so this was, an interesting, bit of history in the movie, and just the time period. That's really what I enjoyed about that movie. The looks of the cars and the fashion. I dug it. I really enjoyed that. While I am not able to see the new James Bond movie in the short term, because the premiere of that, which was supposed to be in April of 2020, has been pushed, I believe, to November. So, but I did get to see a movie in which Daniel Craig appears and has a major role, and that is Knives Out. And if you have not seen that movie, I highly recommend it. It's a whodunit. It's a bit like, I'll say Agatha Christie or what is it, Poirot? I know I'm not saying that correctly, but it's like I said, it's a murder mystery, and Daniel Craig plays this investigator who's trying to solve it, and it's just a wonderful cast, lots of great characters. I mean, Don Johnson's in it, and it was wonderful to see him play this character. It was just a really good movie. I haven't seen a movie like that in forever, and it was just wonderful to see a well-crafted movie in that genre. So go watch that. A movie that we watched that I can't really say that about, but it was entertaining, I suppose. It was the remake of Midway with the new cast. The thing I did like about it, though, was that they focused more on what the characters were going through and their experiences relating to the attack on Pearl Harbor and leading up to the Battle of Midway. And so I appreciated that they decided to take that focus instead of being just a 2-hour long movie of battleships fighting in the Pacific Ocean. So that was appreciated. And then finally, last thing I'll just mention, like I said, we want to introduce the girls to some good movies, influential movies. I don't know if this movie is either one of those, but it made an impact on me when I was a kid, and I haven't seen this movie since I was 11, I think, at that time. And this is The Black Hole. It was a movie, like I said, came out when I was younger, and I remember that was one of the few movies that my parents took us to, and I remember really enjoying it. And my brother and I would take because in the movie there's this scene, and I thought it was a much longer scene, or there was more of that kind of scene in the movie, and there really wasn't, but they have these ray guns that are 2-barreled. And so, if you do the rock on sign with your hands, you take your 2 middle fingers and pull those down, it kind of forms the shape of those guns. And I remember my brother and I, we would go around going pew, 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 pew with our hands to emulate that. And then there were the cute robots. But I remember also that the robot in the movie, is it Maximilian? Is that the name of the robot? The evil robot in the movie. There was a few scenes in that movie that kind of spooked me when I was younger. And so it was interesting to watch those again now, 40 something years later. Well, no, 40 years later. That's exactly it. Okay. But yeah, not a good movie, not a great film, but it was interesting to watch it with the girls, who are 14, 15 years old. A few times during the course of the movie, Madison looked over at me and said, "Why did you enjoy this movie?" They did not particularly care for it. But it was fun to rewatch something from my youth like that. So, again, a movie I don't need to see again. Anyway, okay, so that's TV and movies, podcasts that I have enjoyed for various reasons. I already mentioned The Good Place and West Wing Weekly finales. Those are a lot of fun, like I said. There was a new podcast that I have tried out called Just Another Fanboy. Really good production values. I really enjoyed the host. I'm forgetting his name. I'm sorry. But the episode I listened to last was his look at Blue Beetle #1, and that was quite enjoyable. So I'll continue to listen to that show. Peter Rios and Adam Murdo released a new episode of the Crisis Tapes, talking about this. This is part 4 of issue number 5 of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Always a joy to listen to that show. So there's that. In fact, this weekend I started listening to George from Meanwhile at the Podcast and Damien, Sleepy Reader 666, also from the Never Stay Dead podcast with Matt. So Damien and George got together and did an episode or a look at previews for this month. Since I am not able to do that, they decided to go do one of their own. So that's really cool that they're doing that. Maybe I can join them sometime as well. So go to Damien's Sleepy Reader YouTube channel. You can watch the two of them talk about previews. And then finally, I was listening to This American Life. This is episode 692, The Show of Delights. And they were just talking about various things that bring delight to people and what is delight. And there was something in there that they highlighted or spotlighted. So poet Ross Gay spent a year writing about delight. What is delight? What is delight for him? And I thought that was just really cool. And, because he basically did a diary for a year and wrote every day about something that delighted him or exploring the idea of delight. And I just thought that, what a great idea. And now I want to go read that work. There was also a story about a mother who didn't experience delight until her husband died. And I thought that was very interesting. The fact that you could live a life without delight for so many years until something so dramatic and catastrophic has happened in your life. But, in a weird way, it kind of filled me with hope, that even though a tragedy occurs in your life, you can still transform that into something good for you, which now, given, because I wrote some of these notes weeks ago as things happen in my life, I have a document that I write these things in to remind myself to talk about them. And this was before all this coronavirus stuff hit. So apropos, nothing tragic has happened, in my life personally, but, people are dying out there. And, I think about their family and their loved ones and what they're going through because of that. But anyway, so I was listening to that show and I was thinking about, well, what are the times that I have felt like episodes of delight? I kind of think of this as true happiness. And there have been a few times, I've experienced happiness, of course, and delight in small and wonderful ways and large and wonderful ways. But I was kind of thinking of like the big things, right? Or like where I was just filled with delight / joy, happiness, whatever, those really awesome things. And one was my daughter's birth, which is appropriate since I'm here on the day of her birth, her birthday, talking about this. And then conversely, 25 years later, I felt the same sort of emotions, when my granddaughter Hadley was born. And I went into her hospital, my daughter's hospital room, and got to meet Hadley for the first time and just experienced that with her. that was delightful. There was one time I think it was shortly after. Yeah. I don't know. Actually, I don't remember if it was shortly. It had to have been shortly after my wife and I got married, and we were renting this house near the college that I went to for undergrad, and I think it was a Sunday morning, and I woke up, as I often do, still do, early. The sun was just coming up, and I laid in bed watching my wife sleep, and I was just listening to the sounds outside, the light coming in the room, my wife sleeping next to me, and I was just happy. And for some reason, that particular morning has stuck with me all these years later. I think we all need just a little bit of delight in our lives. So I hope that you are experiencing those more so than anything else right now. So I wish you happiness there for sure. And then finally, I'll end with some comic book trades that I've read recently. Now, I've already highlighted those on the Longbox Review Instagram, but I'll mention here, these are some comic book trades that I've enjoyed recently. One is Star Trek Year 5, Volume 1. And as I said on Instagram, this was a delight. At the time I posted the Instagram post, I'd only read the first issue in that trade, the first 2 issues, I think. And I thought then it was a wonderful series. And then after that, I finished it, and it is really a wonderful series. If you are a fan of Star Trek, especially the original series, which is what this is about, then you need to read this. If you missed out on the monthly issues as I did, boy, the trades are going to be a lot of fun for you. I just recently ordered Volume 2 and also discovered that it is a 12-issue run for some reason. Right? 12 issue or 24? I can't remember. I think it's 12. But anyway, I'm looking forward to that second trade for sure. And then the next 3 are books that I've had trades for a while. I don't know how long, but a while. But they are series that I've read before. Manifest Destiny. I read Volume 3. I think I read, maybe it was 3 and 4. Anyway, I thought I read 2, but maybe it was only 1. Rat Queens, I read Volume 2. And Deadly Class, I read Volumes 3 and 4. Maybe I'm getting Manifest Destiny and Deadly Class confused. But I had stopped buying those trades as they were coming out, because that's what I was doing with those, because I wasn't getting to them. I wasn't reading them. I'm like, well, I don't want to spend a bunch of money on a series that I may not be enjoying anymore. I did this with Walking Dead. I got to a point and I was like, I'm done. I don't want to read any more of this book. So if I'd kept doing that, I would have ended up, I don't know, I'm sure I would have enjoyed it because it's a great book, but now I kind of regret that now, because I rediscovered why I liked those books in the first place. So now I have all of the rest of the currently released volumes added to my wish list on in-stock trades right now. And I need to go get all of them because they're great. Manifest Destiny, in case you don't know, is an alternate history version of the Lewis and Clark expedition, where the West is filled with monsters. And they're out there trying to ascertain what's out there, what's dangerous, and in some cases, eliminate the threat. So it's not, they are flawed protagonists for sure. But it's a lot of fun to read. The imagination, the creatures that they come up with it's really cool. I like the interaction with the characters. It's just a lot of fun. Rat Queens, oh my God. That's a joyful, speaking of joy, that comic brings me a lot of joy. Just the dialogue, the characters, the art. I know the artist I'm blanking on the artist. So there was some controversy involving the artist of that comic book, and then he was replaced. But regardless, I quite enjoy that artist's work on this book. So I know he was, like I said, he was replaced, and I'm actually a little trepidatious about who replaced that artist. So we'll see. But definitely a good read. Deadly Class was recommended to me by my friend Travis and some other folks on Twitter. Anyway, I read, like I said, volume 3 and 4. Volume 3 was a bit of a slog, I have to admit, because the main character, whose name I'm forgetting, was just, poor woe is me kind of attitude, basically the whole volume. But then volume 4 really picked up, and it was a slaughter fest, if you will. But it was really entertaining. And I really, speaking of artists, I really enjoy what the artist on that book, Wes Craig, is that right? Boy, you'd think I would write this stuff down, but I don't. Boy, they've been the artist on that book, artists, because I'm including not just the penciler, but the inker and the colorist, the letterer. To me, the art team on that book is just killing it. Even if I'm not all that enamored with the book overall. I mean, I enjoy it, don't get me wrong, but out of the 4 that I've mentioned already, this was my least favorite, but that's not saying a whole lot in terms of its enjoyability. It's a good book, so I recommend that as well. So, I guess that's it. Like I said, despite what's going on in the world, maybe I've recommended something that you might enjoy, that you might get some enjoyment out of, despite the world in which we live in right now. So with that, I guess, please take care, be safe, be well, and I hope to talk to you all soon. Thanks for listening.